Commander Zilix of the Galactic Reconnaissance Division had been having a perfectly boring Tuesday until his long-range sensors started screaming about unauthorized activity on the Kepler 442 billion. And really, who expects to find anything interesting on a backwater rock that barely qualified as habitable? "Gorb, tell me you're seeing this too," Zilix muttered, his three eyes focusing on the sensor readout with growing confusion. His pilot, a perpetually optimistic blorgen named Gorb, was humming what passed for show tunes in 17 different languages while steering their scout ship, the cautious approach, through another routine sweep of the Outer Rim territories. "Oh yes, Commander. Very exciting readings. Much more interesting than last week's gas giant survey." Gorb's enthusiasm was genuinely painful sometimes. The creature had been genetically engineered for deep space exploration, which apparently included an unshakable positive attitude that made Zilix want to space himself on particularly long missions. Their analyst, Keat, a nervous Skitari whose species had evolved from prey animals, was frantically cross-referencing databases. "Commander, according to our latest intelligence reports, humans shouldn't have the capability to establish outposts this far from their home system. They barely achieved faster than light travel 3 cycles ago." Zilix drummed his clawed fingers against his command chair. The humans were supposed to be contained to their little corner of the galaxy, playing with primitive fusion drives and arguing about who got to plant flags on their neighboring rocks. The Galactic Council had very specific protocols about when species were ready for expansion beyond their home systems, and humans had failed every single psychological evaluation. "Maybe it's a research station?" Keat offered hopefully. "You know how humans are about poking things they shouldn't poke. Remember the incident with the quantum resonance crystals?" "Don't remind me." Zilix still had nightmares about that particular report. Humans had somehow turned a basic scientific survey into what their military called a learning experience and what everyone else called cosmic vandalism. The sensor array chimed again, and Gorb's humming stopped mid-note. "Commander, I'm detecting multiple structures, power signatures consistent with industrial fabrication, and oh my, that's a lot of electromagnetic chatter." "Define a lot, Gorb." "Well, sir, imagine if you gave a caffeinated teenager access to a galactic communication network and told them to invite everyone to a party." Zilix felt that familiar sensation he'd learned to recognize as humans are involved. It was similar to the feeling you get right before stepping on something unpleasant in the dark. "Keat, what's our stealth capability?" "Full spectrum invisibility is operational, Commander. We could park on their landing pad and they wouldn't notice us." "Famous last words," Zilix muttered. "Set course for the planet. And Gorb, try not to hum. We're supposed to be sneaky." "Of course, Commander. Silent as a Vorthan shadow cat." "Vorthan shadow cats scream constantly, Gorb." "Oh, right, silent as a silent thing then." As they approached Kepler 442 billion, Zilix couldn't shake the feeling that this routine reconnaissance mission was about to become anything but routine. In his experience, humans had a talent for turning simple situations into complex disasters with remarkable efficiency. The planet grew larger in their view screen, and Zilix could see the human structures clearly now. They weren't ramshackle research stations or desperate mining operations. They were organized, purposeful, and disturbingly well planned. "Gorb, how exactly did humans get here before we knew they could get here?" "Perhaps they asked nicely?" Zilix stared at his pilot. "Gorb, we're talking about humans." "Ah, right. They probably didn't ask nicely." The human outpost looked like someone had crossbred a military installation with a corporate headquarters and then fed it too much coffee. Geometric structures arranged in what Zilix assumed was some kind of strategic pattern, though knowing humans it could just as easily have been random. "Cloaking is holding steady," Keat reported as they descended. "Their sensors are, actually, that's odd. Their sensors are much more sophisticated than they should be." To find sophisticated, Zlik said, though he was beginning to suspect he didn't want to know. Well, they appear to have modified standard Zorian detection arrays with Krelix enhancement modules and… Wait, is that a Valderan targeting system? How do humans have Valderan targeting systems? The Valdorans barely have Valderan targeting systems. Gorb landed the cautious approach behind what appeared to be a vehicle maintenance facility, which gave them an excellent view of the main complex through their hull cameras. The buildings were crawling with humans, all moving with that particular brand of organized chaos that seemed to characterize their species. I'm reading massive power signatures from the central building, Keats said. Whatever they're doing in there, it's requiring a lot of energy. Zlix activated his personal cloaking device. We're going in. Gorb, you stay with the ship. Try not to touch anything. What if something tries to touch me? Then we'll know humans have better sensors than we thought. The infiltration itself was surprisingly easy. Human security seemed to focus more on keeping things in than keeping things out, which struck Zlix as backwards until he remembered this was humanity they were talking about. Their personnel moved between buildings with casual efficiency, chatting about something called Phase 3 implementation and resource acquisition protocols. The main building's entrance was helpfully labeled Stellar Expansion Initiative, Administrative Center, because apparently humans felt the need to advertise their intentions. Inside, Zix's worst fears were confirmed. This wasn't a research station or mining operation. This was a planning center. A very serious, very organized, very human planning center. The central room was dominated by a holographic display showing what looked suspiciously like a three-dimensional map of local star systems. Red markers indicated human targets. Green markers showed what the display cheerfully labeled as acquisition complete. There were a lot more green markers than there should have been. Jenkins. Status report on the Kepler 438 situation. The voice belonged to a tall, human female with short dark hair and the kind of smile that probably made other humans nervous. Her name tag read Director Martinez, Expansion Coordination. A thin, jittery human male approached, clutching what appeared to be a caffeinated beverage. Director, we've completed preliminary surveys on 17 systems. The Regilian trade routes are more vulnerable than expected, and our analysts believe we can establish forward operating bases on 12 worlds without triggering any formal territorial disputes. Excellent. And the contingency plans? All scenarios from diplomatic negotiation to orbital bombardment have been prepared. Though I still think the orbital bombardment protocols are a bit excessive. Director Martinez laughed. Jenkins, you said the same thing about the trade negotiation protocols. To be fair, Director, requiring tribute in the form of rare earth minerals and cultural artifacts does seem aggressive for a friendly trade agreement. Zlix felt his blood temperature drop several degrees. These humans weren't just planning expansion. They were planning conquest. Systematic, organized, multiple contingency conquest. A third human approached, this one older with graying hair and the kind of calm demeanor that suggested either wisdom or dangerous competence. His name tag read Strategic Advisor Thompson. Director, we've received responses from 3 more systems regarding our cultural exchange programs. The Centaurians are interested in our coffee production techniques, the Altarians want to discuss our music, and the Proxima Colony has requested a full diplomatic exchange. Any red flags, Thompson? Well, the Centaurians' definition of cultural exchange might include territorial concessions. The Altarians think our music is a form of psychological warfare, and the Proxima Colony appears to be under the impression that we're offering protection services. Are we offering protection services? Not exactly, but our contingency plans do include protective measures for Allied territories. Director Martinez nodded approvingly. So we're 3 for 3 on positive responses. Excellent work, everyone. Zlix watched in growing horror as these humans discussed interstellar conquest with the same casual efficiency other species use to plan lunch menus. Now, let's review the Rigel sector expansion timeline, Director Martinez continued, manipulating the holographic display with practiced ease. Star systems rotated and zoomed as she highlighted various targets. Phase 1 colony ships should reach their destinations within 8 standard months. Jenkins consulted his tablet, fingers dancing across the surface with caffeine-enhanced speed. Director, I've run the numbers 3 times and I keep getting the same result. We're ahead of schedule on every front. The Altair reconnaissance team reported that local defenses are practically non-existent. The Vega resource surveys exceeded projections by 40%. And our advanced teams have already established supply caches on 16 different worlds. 16? Thompson raised an eyebrow. I thought we only approved supply caches for 12 worlds. Well, yes, but the teams encountered some opportunities that seemed too good to pass up. Apparently, several systems have what they describe as real estate just sitting there, completely unused. Zlix wanted to scream. Those unused territories were buffer zones maintained by interstellar treaty. Humans had apparently decided that if nobody was actively living somewhere, it was fair game for colonization. Director Martinez pulled up another display, this one showing detailed schematics of various alien technologies. Speaking of opportunities, what's the status on our technology integration project? A new human appeared, seemingly from nowhere, carrying what looked like pieces of advanced alien hardware. Director. We've successfully reverse-engineered the Zorion faster-than-light communication system, improved the efficiency of Krelix shield generators by 30%, and figured out how to mass-produce Valduran plasma conduits using materials we can synthesize locally. How did you improve Krelix shield efficiency? Thompson asked with genuine curiosity. Well, we noticed they were using a lot of redundant safety protocols that seemed unnecessarily cautious. So we removed those and channeled the extra power into the primary matrix, much more efficient. Heat, listening through Zix's communication implant, made a sound that roughly translated to "Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no." Krelix safety protocols existed for very good reasons, most of which involved preventing catastrophic explosions. Any side effects? Director Martinez asked. Some minor instability under extreme conditions, but we've developed workarounds. Basically, if the shields start fluctuating, you just need to hit them with a hammer in the right spot. A hammer? May? Percussive maintenance director. Very effective technique. Zlix was beginning to understand why humans had such a reputation for turning simple problems into complex disasters. They approached technology the same way they apparently approached interstellar relations, with enthusiasm, creativity, and a disturbing lack of regard for established safety protocols. Now, Director Martinez said, switching to a new display, let's discuss our long-term strategic objectives. Thompson, where do we stand on the 1,000-year plan? Thompson activated a timeline that made Zlix's heart skip several beats. The human expansion projection stretched across multiple star systems, included detailed economic projections, military deployments, and something labeled cultural assimilation protocols. Phase 1 involves establishing friendly relations with local governments through trade agreements and cultural exchanges. Phase 2 transitions these relationships into economic partnerships with mutual defense clauses. Phase 3. Phase 3? Jenkins prompted. Phase 3 is what we call the Neighborhood Improvement Initiative. Basically, we help our new partners solve their political problems, upgrade their infrastructure, and integrate their technologies with ours. And if they don't want help with their political problems? Thompson smiled. Everyone wants help with their political problems, Jenkins. They just don't always realize it yet. Director Martinez nodded approvingly. Excellent work, everyone. Now, I understand we have some new intelligence about potential resistance from established galactic powers. Actually, Director, our projections suggest that most established powers are dealing with their own internal issues and are unlikely to interfere with our expansion efforts. The Galactic Council seems to be focused on regulating trade disputes between the Andromedans and the Centaurians. The Rigelian Empire is dealing with succession politics, and most other major powers appear to be under the impression that we're still contained to our home system. Zlix realized with growing alarm that human intelligence was not only accurate but more current than his own briefings. Somehow, these humans knew more about galactic politics than the Galactic Reconnaissance Division. "Gorb," Zlix whispered into his communicator, "how's our cloaking holding up?" "Steady as a rock, Commander, though I have noticed some unusual electromagnetic pulses coming from the human facility. Nothing to worry about, I'm sure." That was exactly the kind of thing Zlix had learned to worry about. Define unusual, Gorb. "Well, it seems like their sensors are actively scanning for cloaked objects. But don't worry. Our technology is far superior to anything humans should have access to." Through the facility's windows, Zlix could see humans setting up what looked suspiciously like a tactical exercise. They had constructed a three-dimensional battle scenario using holographic projectors and were apparently about to run some kind of war game simulation. "Jenkins, initiate scenario Omega-7, Director Martinez called out. "Director, are you sure? Omega-7 is the one where everything goes wrong simultaneously." "That's why we practice it, Jenkins. Murphy's Law is humanity's most reliable natural resource." The simulation began, and Zlix watched in fascination as the humans' carefully planned scenario immediately devolved into chaos. Their virtual fleet encountered unexpected enemy reinforcements, suffered multiple system failures, lost communication with command, and somehow ended up fighting a three-way battle while their supply lines were under attack by space pirates. "Okay, people," Director Martinez shouted over the simulated explosions. "Remember, the objective isn't to follow the plan. The objective is to accomplish the mission when the plan inevitably falls apart." What followed was the most chaotic, improvised, and bizarrely effective military exercise Zlix had ever witnessed. Humans adapted to each new disaster with remarkable creativity, turning disadvantages into advantages and somehow managing to complete their objectives despite everything going wrong. "Thompson, your thoughts?" Director Martinez asked as the simulation ended. "Well, we lost 60% of our fleet, half our supplies, and had to negotiate a peace treaty with the pirates, but we successfully established footholds in all target systems and somehow ended up with more resources than we started with." "How?" Wayne Tai. "Apparently the pirates were impressed by our tactical flexibility and offered to join our expansion efforts as security consultants. Also, the enemy reinforcements turned out to be a lost exploration fleet that was grateful for rescue and agreed to share their star charts." Jenkins looked up from his tablet. "Director, I ran a statistical analysis of our war game results. On average, our operations succeed despite catastrophic failure rates that should mathematically guarantee defeat." "That sounds about right," Director Martinez nodded. "Humans have a long tradition of succeeding through sheer stubbornness and creative problem-solving." Zlix was beginning to suspect that human military doctrine was less strategy and more organized chaos with positive outcomes. The disturbing part was that it seemed to work. "Commander," Keats' voice crackled through his communicator with barely controlled panic, "I'm detecting some concerning energy signatures from our position. I think their sensors might be." The lights in the facility suddenly shifted from normal illumination to what humans apparently considered alert status. Red warning indicators began flashing, and an automated voice announced, "Attention! Unknown cloaked vessels detected in Sector 7. Please report to administration for visitor processing." "Gorb," Zlix said very calmly, "please tell me you didn't touch anything." "I didn't touch anything, Commander. But I think something might have touched us." Through the facility windows, Zlix could see humans moving with efficient purpose toward his location. They weren't running or shouting. They were approaching with the kind of calm professionalism that suggested this was a situation they had prepared for. Director Martinez appeared on what was apparently a facility-wide communication system. Attention, visitors. Welcome to the Stellar Expansion Initiative. Please don't be alarmed by our detection systems. We found that most galactic neighbors prefer formal introductions to accidental surveillance. Coffee and briefings are available in Conference Room A. Zlix made the tactical decision that surrender was preferable to whatever humans might do if they had to extract him from his hiding spot. He deactivated his cloaking device and stepped into the open, hands visible and posture non-threatening. The humans who approached him were led by Director Martinez, who was still carrying her coffee and looked more curious than concerned about finding an alien spy in her facility. "Commander Zelix of the Galactic Reconnaissance Division," she said, reading from a tablet that definitely shouldn't have contained his personal information. "Pilot Gorb, Analyst Keat. Scout Ship Cautious Approach, Registry Number GA D2847. How was your flight?" "How do you know?" Zlix began. "We've been monitoring galactic reconnaissance traffic for the past 18 months, Thompson said, approaching with his own tablet and what appeared to be a welcoming smile. "Your organization has excellent operational security, by the way. It took our analysts nearly 3 weeks to crack your communication protocols." 3 weeks? "We're still working on improving our efficiency," Jenkins added apologetically. "Our goal is to reduce intelligence gathering timelines to under 2 weeks for most galactic organizations." Director Martinez gestured toward the facility's main building. "Please come inside. We'd love to discuss some exciting opportunities for interspecies cooperation." Zlix found himself being escorted into the very facility he had been attempting to spy on, surrounded by humans who seemed genuinely delighted to meet him. It was possibly the most polite capture he'd ever experienced. Conference room. It turned out to be equipped with furniture designed for multiple alien physiologies, a refreshment station that included beverages from 17 different worlds, and wall displays showing detailed information about galactic politics that was more current than Zlix's own intelligence briefings. "First things first," Director Martinez said, pouring herself another coffee and offering Zlix something that looked suspiciously like his species' preferred nutritional beverage. "We want you to know that we're not actually conquering anybody." "Your expansion plans suggest otherwise," Zlix said carefully. "I can see how our terminology might be confusing." Thompson laughed. "We prefer to think of it as aggressive neighborhood development. We're not conquering territories so much as helping underutilized regions reach their full potential. With military support." "Security services," Jenkins corrected. "Every good development project needs adequate security. Have you seen the pirate activity in the Rigel sector? It's terrible for commerce." Director Martinez activated a holographic display. "Commander, what do you know about the current state of galactic affairs?" "I know that humans are supposed to be confined to their home system pending psychological evaluation by the Galactic Council." "Right about that," Thompson said. "We took the evaluation. Multiple times, actually. Turns out the psychological profile they were using was designed for species that evolved in low-stress environments. It didn't account for humans' particular approach to problem solving." "Which approach is that?" "Well, most species try to avoid problems. Humans tend to solve them by creating bigger problems that cancel out the original problems." Zlix stared at Thompson. "That doesn't sound psychologically stable." "Oh, it's completely insane," Director Martinez agreed cheerfully. "But it's remarkably effective. Would you like to see our impact projections?" The display showed detailed analyses of human activities across multiple star systems. In every case, human involvement had resulted in improved trade relations, reduced pirate activity, better resource distribution, and significantly more stable regional politics. "How is this possible?" Zlix asked. "Well," Jenkins explained, "it turns out that most galactic problems exist because everyone's too polite to solve them directly. Humans don't have that particular cultural limitation." "You mean you're not polite?" "Oh, we're very polite," Director Martinez said. We just define politeness differently. For example, if we notice that two species are having a territorial dispute that's disrupting trade and causing resource shortages, we consider it polite to help them resolve the situation. By force. By offering alternative solutions they might not have considered. Sometimes that involves trade negotiations. Sometimes it involves helping them relocate to better territories. Sometimes it involves introducing them to new technologies that make the original dispute irrelevant. Thompson added, and sometimes it involves hiring the pirates who were causing problems as security consultants for the new trade routes. The pirates agreed to that? Pirates are just entrepreneurs with poor business models, Director Martinez explained. Give them legitimate opportunities for profitable adventure, and most of them are quite reasonable. Zlix was beginning to understand that human expansion wasn't conquest in any traditional sense. It was something far more dangerous, competent problem-solving on a galactic scale. 3 hours later, Zlix found himself back aboard the Cautious Approach with a data pad full of human consultation offers, a bag of something called coffee beans, and the growing suspicion that he was about to file the strangest reconnaissance report in Galactic Division history. Commander, Keat said nervously, how exactly are we going to explain this to Command? Very carefully, Keat. Very, very carefully. Gorb was examining the coffee beans with scientific curiosity. The humans said these would improve our mission efficiency and help us think more clearly. Should I be concerned that they're trying to drug us? Gorb, at this point, I'm more concerned about what happens if we don't try their coffee. The flight back to headquarters gave Zlix time to review the intelligence the humans had freely shared. It was comprehensive, current, and contained solutions to problems that had been puzzling the Galactic Council for decades. The humans weren't just expanding into uninhabited territories, they were systematically identifying and resolving conflicts that had been considered unsolvable. Commander, Keat said, studying the data, according to these projections, human expansion activities have reduced regional conflicts by 37%, improved trade efficiency by 62%, and somehow convinced 4 different pirate organizations to become legitimate security firms. And they've established colonies on 43 worlds. Well, yes, but they're calling them regional development centers, and they appear to be genuinely improving local conditions for everyone involved. Zlix rubbed his temples, feeling the beginning of what humans would probably call a headache. So let me understand this correctly. Humans have created a galactic expansion program that involves conquering territory by making everyone happier and more prosperous? It does seem to be working, Commander. The briefing with Galactic Command went about as well as Zlix had expected, which is to say it began with accusations of incompetence and gradually shifted to bewildered fascination as the implications became clear. So you're telling me, Admiral Creek said, reviewing Zlix's report for the 3rd time, that humans have not only escaped containment but have established a multi-system expansion network that is actively improving galactic stability? Yes, sir, and they've offered to share their methodologies with other species. They want to teach other species how to conquer territories. They want to teach other species how to solve problems, sir. The territorial expansion seems to be a side effect. Fleet Commander Yorth leaned forward. What about the psychological evaluations? Our experts determined that humans were too unstable for interstellar expansion. Well, sir, it appears our experts were correct. Humans are unstable. They're just unstable in a productive direction. The final decision came down from the Galactic Council itself. Humans would be officially reclassified from contained pending evaluation to provisional expansion partners, with the understanding that their expansion activities would be monitored and that they would provide consultation services to other species experiencing territorial or political difficulties. 6 months later, Zlix found himself back in human space, this time as an official liaison officer. The Stellar Expansion Initiative had grown into a multi-species cooperative. Human coffee had become inexplicably popular among 17 different alien cultures, and 3 different galactic conflicts had been resolved through what humans called aggressive mediation. Commander Zlix. Director Martinez greeted him with obvious pleasure. "How do you like your new assignment?" "It's certainly more interesting than reconnaissance work," Zlix admitted. "Though I have to ask, did you plan any of this?" "Plan it?" "Commander, humans don't plan chaos. We just aim it in productive directions and see what happens." Thompson approached with a tablet and that same calm smile. "Speaking of which, we've identified some interesting opportunities in the Andromeda sector. The local governments have been dealing with some resource distribution issues, and we think our development model might be helpful." "Define helpful," Zlix said, though he was already suspecting the answer. "Well, there are these uninhabited systems between the major powers that would make excellent sites for regional cooperation centers. And we happen to notice that most of the resource distribution problems could be solved with better transportation infrastructure." Jenkins appeared, carrying his perpetual coffee and looking slightly more caffeinated than usual. "Plus, we've developed some exciting new applications for Andromedan crystal technology. Turns out it works much better when you ignore the manufacturer's safety recommendations." Zlix poured himself a cup of coffee and settled in to review humanity's latest expansion proposal. Somewhere in the back of his mind, he realized that he was now part of the most successful conquering force in galactic history, one that conquered through competence, caffeine, and an alarming willingness to turn problems into opportunities. And the strangest part was that everyone seemed to be benefiting from it. Even the pirates.